Those who worked with Frank Sutton have a different story to tell than the irate Marine sergeant who mistreated poor Gamer Pyle. Hollywood remains silent about this story for half a century. Frank Sutton wasn't just an actor, there was a genuine one. When other well-known persons stayed at home during World War II, he flew into active conflict zones in Vietnam and made 14 landings in combat. One night in Louisiana, everything came to an end. His wife had been unaware of his awful secret until she discovered something in his dressing room. On October 23, 1923, he was born in Clarksville, Tennessee. It was hard in those days. It was difficult to get employment because the nation was in the midst of the Great Depression. Though he never knew if he would have a job, Sutton's father worked on the train. Food was scarce, and finances were tight. As a child, Frank witnessed his parents doing everything in their power to keep him and his brothers alive. My hands and clothes were fixed, and the days were lengthy. It altered him. He gained the ability to stand up for what was right. When Frank was 8 years old, the family relocated to Nashville in the hopes that things would improve there. However, he had negative events when he was 14. His father died of a really serious intestinal ailment. Suddenly, Frank was the head of the household. There was no safety net in those days. Every cent was scrutinized, and every meal was difficult. Frank had to assist his mother in cooking and other household chores, which forced him to mature rapidly. He had to be tough at that difficult and agonizing period before most children even considered growing up. Nevertheless, he had a driving force. At the age of 9, Frank performed in his first play. After that brief school play, he transformed. Being on stage was thrilling and felt fantastic. Although he had a difficult life, that incident gave him a new perspective. He saw it as something he could cling to, a cause to survive. Frank never lost sight of his feelings over the years. In high school, his passion for playing only deepened. He was excellent in every role he portrayed in East Nashville High School's acting club. Despite having a lot of homework and household chores to complete, his professors and peers were able to recognize his talent. He has a constant desire to do things. Even though his life had been difficult and Nashville was little, Frank had huge goals, and by the time he finished in 1941, just before the United States entered World War II, he was certain that acting was his calling. After graduating, Frank was hired as a radio host at WJDZM in Clarksville. For a big-voiced 19-year-old who enjoyed telling stories, it was a good fit. He recovered by being on the radio. He never believed that radio was the end of the journey, even if every episode showed him his ideal employment. In his heart, he knew that something greater was waiting for him. Frank made the decision to enlist in the Army. During the war in 1942. Because he was colorblind, they rejected his desire to join the Marines. Frank was wounded. It felt unjust that he was repeatedly told no because he was colorblind, but he persisted. Despite being rejected by every branch of the service, he persisted. He was ultimately allowed to join the Army in 1943. It wasn't the Marines, but it was an opportunity to serve others. He joined the 293rd Joint Assault Signal Company, a specialized unit that handled critical communications, in the 6th Infantry Division. What Frank and his group witnessed was terrible. In the Pacific, they assisted with 14 land and sea landings on islands such as Corregidor, Lee, Luzon, and Bataan. The Allies fought to liberate the Philippines in October 1944. Tens of thousands of individuals lost their lives in the Battle of Leyte. Frank's group was frequently among the first troops to land. The risk was enormous. Every landing was a struggle for survival. These were some of the riskiest occupations during the war. By the end of his service, Frank had been promoted to sergeant. He received a Purple Heart for his combat injuries and a Bronze Star for his valor. Receiving these honors wasn't simple. They related the tale of a person who persevered despite being in grave peril. Despite having earned every rank and medal in actual battle, it's surprising that years later, Americans would recognize him as a TV Marine sergeant. When Japan surrendered in 1945, Frank was transferred to Korea. He was involved in the creation of a radio program there called the Military Government Hour. endeavor to help Korea recover from the war. The show was written, produced, and directed by Frank. He helped others learn and feel better by using his voice and creative energy. The nature of the work was completely different. He chose to use his abilities to assist mold the future of a nation that was improving rather than surviving combat. When Frank Sutton left for college in 1946, he was a completely different guy. His first battle was to pursue a career in acting. Sutton, who had previously survived World War II, traveled to Peabody College to change his soldier's uniform to a theater costume. He worked at the neighborhood theater at night and studied throughout the day. With every smaller role and extended rehearsal, he felt less like a soldier and more like an actress. He wasn't always sure where the adventure would take him, and it wasn't always easy. Sutton decided to pursue his aspirations all the way to New York City in the fall of 1946. It was a courageous action. Numerous artists in the city shared his desire and lacked substantial financial resources. However, he continued to study drama at Columbia University. He lived frugally and focused on the task at hand since every bit mattered. The streets of New York seemed to be quite large, and competition was fierce. Sutton, however, had no intention of giving up. For him, Columbia was a location where he could study, not just a school. Every class and every performance taught him how to be the actor he wanted to be. At Columbia, he also met the person who would permanently alter his life. One day, Sutton was reading a Hamlet speech. Among the audience was a young woman called Toby Igler. His presence and words captivated her. After the show, they became closer to one another. Sutton believed he had at last found someone who understood his passions, and Toby appreciated his diligence and talent. They fell in love. Sutton's relationship with the theater industry strengthened them. With Toby by his side, he felt more capable of managing any issue at Columbia. Sutton married Toby Igler in 1949. Before Sutton passed away in 1974, they had been together for 25 years. They collaborated to create art, so their marriage was more than just an emotional union. Toby, a talented writer, was quite successful on daytime television, particularly in soap operas. She frequently assisted Sutton in making judgments about his acting and profession because she loved telling stories. Sutton urged her to pursue a career in writing in exchange. Together, they have 2 children, Joe and Amanda. They maintained the safety of their family life despite the challenges of show business. When Sutton suffered a heart attack in 1974, their long and enduring love came to an end. They collaborated as a true team, respected one another, and shared common objectives. Sutton dropped out of school at the age of 25 to take a dangerous acting career. He had to take a break from his studies at Columbia University to tour with the production The Barretts of Wimpole Street. Despite the fact that most actors who performed the role were substantially older, Sutton played Elizabeth Barrett Browning's father. His youth did not deter him. He had recently married Toby, who also performed as a backup dancer on the tour. The trip demonstrated Sutton's willingness to take risks for his work and helped him improve as a performer. When everything was over, he returned to Columbia and earned his degree. He was molded early on by that combination of taking chances and exercising restraint. Sutton secured his first permanent position on television in 1950. He was cast as Cadet Eric Reeson in the 1953 to 1955 season of Tom Corbett, Space Cadet. It was shown on CBS, ABC, NBC, and Dumont, and it was ahead of its time. Sutton and the rest of the team had to put in a lot of effort to strike every target during its run because of live broadcasts. Sutton became familiar to viewers who followed the show's eventual plot. In addition to providing him with live TV experience, this segment exposed him to a devoted and engaged audience. It was a stable profession at a time when television was just getting established. Sutton's big break in film came in 1955. Paddy Chifsky wrote the screenplay and Delbert Mann directed the low-budget romantic drama film Marty. In it, he portrayed one of their pals. It was a straightforward tale of a lonely butcher searching for love. It was released on April 11, 1955. At the box office, it earned over $3 million despite only costing $343,000. It was so brilliant that it took home the Palme d'Or at Cannes and the Oscar for Best Picture. Sutton co-starred alongside Oscar winner Ernest Borgnine, who took home the Best Actor trophy. Despite not being the star, Sutton's role in this film made him famous in Hollywood. Due to its cultural, historical, or artistic significance, the film is currently housed in the Library of Congress. This indicates unequivocally that Sutton was a member of something unique. Sutton appeared in numerous television series in the 1950s and 1960s. He was featured in Twilight Zone episodes. During the spooky 1962 episode, The Dummy, he portrayed Frank, an agent. In the gritty Old West on Gunsmoke, he was a trustworthy companion. The Fugitive was a television program that maintained viewer interest until its historic conclusion. Sutton portrayed a harsh sergeant on The Untouchables who became entangled in a protection racket. In contrast to the comedic parts he would later play, there was a darker side of him. In addition, he appeared in soap operas like The Edge of Night and The Secret Storm, as well as Maverick and Combat. He held a variety of occupations and performed a wide range of tasks. When Sutton was cast as Sergeant Vince Carter on Gamer Pyle, USMC, he was already a well-known and respected actor who could play any role. In the spring of 1964, a character who would change everything was added to The Andy Griffith Show. Gamer Pyle, USMC, an episode that aired on May 18, featured gunnery Sergeant Vince Carter. Loud, rough, and direct, Carter was portrayed by Frank Sutton. Gamer Pyle was Jim Neighbors, a kind and honest man. That battle was incredible. Even though there would only be one show, it was obvious that they would get along. CBS executives were unsure whether a military comedy would be successful at the onset of the Vietnam War. However, they had second thoughts after seeing Sutton and Neighbors together. By the end of the show, CBS was sold. Sutton's portrayal of Carter was so realistic and humorous that they promptly approved a spin-off. It happened fast, they didn't have to wait months or years. Producer Danny Thomas even threatened to share the idea with NBC if they didn't embrace it. By September 25, 1964, they were airing Gamer Pyle, USMC. Over the course of 5 whole seasons and 150 episodes, the show never missed the Nielsen Top 10. Every week, Sutton and Neighbors were watched by people around the nation. Sutton's character instructed Gomer on screen. Sutton and Neighbors were close friends in real life. The disparity was odd. Sutton was amiable, humorous, and easygoing. One of the most unexpected names that surfaced was Tab Hunter, the slick 1950s matinee idol. In his book, Hunter later came out. Sherman claimed that in the late 1960s, he and Hunter had a brief but intense connection. Since both guys had to maintain a false public persona while concealing their true selves, they became friends after meeting at a gathering for business. Despite his might, Tab had sadness in his eyes. In his writing, Sherman reportedly wrote, "We both knew the stakes were high, but in our own way, we gave each other the love and freedom we couldn't get anywhere else." Sherman was also close to Rock Hudson, the renowned romantic comic and dramatic legend who lived a double life. Hudson and Sherman reportedly met while working on a charity event in the early 1970s, despite the fact that Sherman was more than 10 years Hudson's junior. What started as a mentorship soon turned into a deeply affectionate bond, Sherman wrote in his private writings. They were together for a short months, but the relationship profoundly altered both of their lives. As Sherman described it, "He had so much of Hollywood on his shoulders, but with me, he could just be. Rock had the funniest laugh, and he never made me feel small." The most contentious name associated with Sherman was most likely Anthony Perkins, who portrayed the melancholy protagonist in Psycho. Their connection was described as intellectually stimulating and emotionally intense. It took place behind closed doors at a time when both men were struggling to maintain a healthy balance between their private and public lives. "Tony was being tortured," Sherman wrote. "However, he felt better when he was with me. For hours, we would perform duets at the piano, allowing the music to express what we were unable to." Even though they each moved on to other people, they remained close friends for years after that. Although Sherman has not verified these allegations in well-known interviews, they highlight the frightened and constrictive atmosphere that drove so many LGBTQ+ entertainers to live in secret and give his public persona a heartfelt touch. Keeping these connections a secret was not a source of shame. Being alive was crucial in those days because a single rumor might destroy your reputation, safety, and work. Decades later, having the guts to stand up helps uncover the forgotten tales of Hollywood's heyday. These were real relationships formed in a society where being genuine was extremely risky. They weren't only temporary ones. A group of performers who were forced to live behind masks have a voice thanks to his narrative. It serves as a reminder that Hollywood wasn't all fun and games. People's lives were actually lost. The entertainment industry was stunned to learn in March 2025 that Bobby Sherman had been diagnosed with stage 4 kidney cancer. In a brief but poignant public statement, his family broke the heartbreaking news. They informed everyone, even his devoted fan base. The news devastated many who had witnessed Sherman's incredible transformation from 1960s adolescent star to devoted public worker. The fact that even the brightest stars can fall was demonstrated. Sherman's songs, TV roles, and later work as a paramedic and reserve police officer had a lasting influence on admirers, even though he stopped appearing in public at the age of 81. Sherman had chosen to mostly conceal the fact that his health had been deteriorating for some time. During this difficult period, friends and co-workers recalled his strength, humor, and unrelenting determination. They also claimed that he handled his illness with the same humility and kindness that had brought him fame in the public eye. Despite his dire diagnosis, Bobby remained upbeat and spiritual in the months that followed, according to people close to him. He was encircled by his devoted family, which included his 2 kids from his previous marriage to Patty Carnell, his wife Bridget Publon, whom he married in 2010, and a number of close friends. Sherman spent his final months in his Los Angeles home. He reportedly felt better after receiving messages from people around the globe, music, and visits from relatives and friends. Many of Sherman's co-workers from the heyday of music and television wrote to express their gratitude and encouragement. They recalled his decades-long career of kindness, professionalism, and generosity. On June 24, 2025, Bobby Sherman passed away peacefully at home. Many people had been impacted by his lengthy and fascinating life. He was 81. Following his passing, he received a lot of tributes on social media, TV, and music channels. Numerous admirers, past co-stars, and other musicians gave him high marks. Sherman was well known for his incredible second job as a skilled EMT and reserve police officer, where he saved lives, taught CPR, and helped people in a quiet, honest way that won over a new generation. His youthful energy used to light up TV shows like Here Come the Brides, and he made hit songs like Little Woman and Julie, Do You Love Me? His passing put an end to a chapter in a story that is exclusively American. He moved from being feared by adolescent audiences to being highly respected by the emergency medical field and the entertainment industry. As a musician and a humanitarian, Bobby Sherman had a profound impression on the world. He had prioritized them. Those who knew Sutton outside of the entertainment industry frequently praised his kindness and sweetness. Despite playing the boisterous and irate Sergeant Carter on television, he was a caring, modest, and really devoted family man behind the scenes. According to his colleagues, he encouraged everyone around him and backed up incoming talents. As Sutton once said, they were both really nice people at heart, even though Sergeant Carter was a jerk. Frank Sutton was not particularly good at obeying regulations in real life, but he played a tough guy in movies. For decades, he consumed up to 2 packs of cigarettes per day, smoking like a fire. He ate poorly, too. He always ate junk food, fatty meals, and late-night snacks when traveling across the nation for work. Back then, many individuals were aware of the negative health effects of smoking. Doctors had solid proof in the 1970s that smoking raised the risk of dying young by about 50%. Among its effects were artery blockage, heart damage, and gradual enlargement and weakening of the heart. Public health initiatives advised individuals to cease, but Sutton didn't care about any of this. He persisted, which increased his desire for evil. It was hardly the only problem. Slowing down was not something Sutton did often. He kept himself occupied by touring with dinner shows when his TV fame ended. By the early 1970s, they were traveling for months at a time around the United States. During other weeks, he performed 6 nights in a row at various locations. His new normal included watching TV late at night, having trouble sleeping, and constantly feeling stressed. Medical research has long demonstrated that poor diet, lack of sleep, and ongoing stress can increase blood pressure, degrade the body, and hasten heart problems. Despite being aware of this, Sutton persisted. Because of his employment, he didn't have time to care for himself, even though his body was telling him it was time. Those signs contained no clues. Before he passed away, he frequently experienced chest pains. He was out of breath in no time. He was constantly exhausted. These are typical indicators that something is seriously wrong with your heart. Doctors have always advised people to pay attention to heart attacks because they frequently occur as a result of people not doing so. Sutton frequently experienced these symptoms, but he disregarded them because he was very busy or overworked. Because of his heavy smoking and poor eating habits, he was in greater risk every day. Sutton, however, never sought out actual assistance. Because he refused, he would perish. He had already been informed by the doctors that this would occur. They were clear that something was wrong with his heart. While some advised him to quit smoking and monitor his symptoms, others advised him to be tested. Sutton disregarded these warnings because he had the ruggedness that people enjoyed watching on television. He needed to protect his employment. He believed that his reputation would suffer if he showed weakness. He believed that, like many men his age, particularly well-known men, frequenting the doctor was a sign of weakness. Sutton's fatigue and chest problems worsened, yet he continued to put off getting help. It was a powerful fear. Known for portraying strong, commanding characters, such as Sergeant Carter on Gamer Pyle, USMC, Sutton was hesitant to disclose that he was experiencing health issues. His friends and relatives later claimed that he skipped checkups because he didn't want anyone to believe he was ill. That kind of thinking was common in the entertainment industry. Many artists believed that in order to maintain their fame, they had to conceal their issues. Sutton was unaware that maintaining his tough guy persona would cause his death more quickly. In June 1974, all of this caught up with him. In Shreveport, Louisiana, Sutton was preparing for a dinner theater production of the play Love. The Beverly Barn Dinner Playhouse was crowded that evening. Visitors came to see a familiar and adored face. Sutton's wife Toby and their daughter Amanda, age 10, accompanied him on this journey. His 20-year-old son Joe remained in his college. His family was excited to watch him act and was glad to have him around. The fact that this was his final performance was unknown to them. Sutton was backstage that evening, as he usually is before a performance. Just before he started, he fainted in his dressing room. Before anyone could help him, he passed away from a massive heart attack. He had just turned 50. He was portrayed by Liz Ives, who addressed the audience and announced Sutton's passing. When the audience assumed there would be a comedy, they were stunned and became silent. They were depressed as they exited the theater because they believed they knew someone who had passed away. The stage immediately ceased Love. Without its star, the show could not continue. Everything changed after Sutton died. The Playhouse canceled any plans for next performances and refunded the tickets. A nice run came to a sad and abrupt conclusion. Even while theater can appear wonderful, it served as a stark reminder of how fleeting real life is. The heart and soul of the performance was Frank Sutton. In his absence, the stage was deserted. He had just turned 50. The passing of a TV personality caused sadness among people across the United States. Sutton attended Columbia University, had served in World War II, and loved to make people laugh. Those who did recall him as an actor described him as amiable, gifted, and enjoying his work. Towns like Clarksville, Tennessee, erected shrines and memorials in his honor after that. He may have lived longer, though, and no monument could alter that. His body was carried back to the location of his birth, upbringing, and parents' grave because that was what he desired. Greenwood Cemetery, where he was laid to rest, soon rose to prominence in the community. His burial is visited by many locals and fans. Some even take special grave walks where they discuss Sutton's life and how he transformed entertainment and his city. Sutton's family has a lengthy history in Clarksville. Working for the local newspaper allowed them to get to know one another. As a child, Frank lived in Nashville and Clarksville, moving around a lot. After graduating from high school, he returned to his hometown to work as a radio host. Millions of people laughed when he became an actress. However, Sutton had prior military service as well. During World War II, he participated in 14 sea assaults in the Pacific, and his duty earned him more admiration than his TV fame. Clarksville residents recall him as a Hollywood star and an American hero. On May 3, 2017, around 150 individuals gathered on Franklin Street to express their happiness. They all gathered around the Roxy Regional Theater to reveal a metal monument of Sutton shaped like a real person. The monument, created by local artist Scott Weiss, has all of Sutton's signature traits, including the hat and the protruding nostrils, and depicts him as Sergeant Vince Carter from the iconic television series Gamer Pyle, USMC. Mark Hulleman, a local leader, oversaw this 2-year effort. Speaking with Pat Powers, who is related to Sutton but not by blood, gave him the idea. Together, they persuaded the town's leaders to celebrate one of their most well-known children. It was a special day. Mayor Kim McMillan lauded Sutton as a beloved son of Clarksville. She discussed his lengthy career and his impressive service record in her remarks. It was located directly in the heart of downtown, Sutton's childhood home. Many people visit that location in remembrance of the man who made them laugh. It reminds us that Clarksville never forgot Sutton, and Sutton never forgot Clarksville. Toby Igler Sutton, his wife, also took steps to pay tribute to him. They had been married since 1949 and collaborated in a powerful and creative manner before to Frank's passing. After losing him, Toby never remarried. She was committed to preserving his reputation. Her duties included writing, reading fan mail, and advocating for him. Along with being a fantastic writer, Toby and his wife, Amanda, made sure that their 2 children, Joe and Amanda, were raised in an environment that encouraged the arts and instilled in them the ability to think critically. Joe followed in his parents' footsteps and became a theater instructor and playwright.